So, Adam, we continue to get flack from the casuals of the show. Listen, we're casuals for casuals by casuals, but the even more casual people who don't know the walk-off inside and out and don't understand the little game we've been playing the last month where we go onto YouTube and take a clickbaity title from one of our competing podcasts and then just use that clickbait title in ours. But it is infuriating some people, dude. I don't know if you saw the comment section from the mailbag on Tuesday, but there's one where the guy was just like, this is all fake news. Obviously, he didn't listen to any of he just saw the title and was like, this is infuriating to me. I'm going to leave a comment. He's like, this is all fake news. Have a great life, guys. I'm not listening again. And I just responded with, well, this changes everything. So
amazing.
By the way, if that is annoying you, I get it because it annoys Adam and I too, but we're not going to stop doing it because you know what has happened since we've started doing this stupid little game of ours? Our numbers have like gone up 2.5 times, and that's on you. We thank you, but also if you're going to complain about clickbait titles, you, my friend, should stop clicking on clickbait titles. It's November 23rd. And let me tell you, if you're seeing titles that say, this will shatter your baseball world, and you haven't heard anything, I guarantee they're just trying to get you to click.
And it worked.
and it worked because we all want to know what will shatter our baseball world. So I'm guilty myself. I'll even see titles from competing podcasts, Adam, where I am so curious where they go with it that I have to click because I'm like, well, there's obviously Atkins didn't speak. I'm not going to be shocked at what Shapiro's doing next, but I want to see what the spin is here.
That is true. That is true. I want to see how this is being spun.
Yeah.
I want to see it. It's the Black Friday sales of marketing, right? We've jacked these prices up so that we could slash them 30%. Now come buy this thing you don't need. Exactly. But you can't resist it. You can't resist.
You'll never save more money than right now.
Of course, I need a AirPods cover case that is magnetic because it's $9. Why am I not buying this right now?
Now, to the grounds crew who is also in on this little joke, of course, we appreciate you just following along and joining us anyways. You've been here right from the start, so a big tip of the hat to the walk-off community. We do really appreciate you. This is the walk-off. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack, and we did manage to get a show together for today. And let me tell you, my friends, it was not the easiest thing to do. There is going to be some speculation because what the hell else are we supposed to talk about right now?
Oh, here's what we're going to talk about. Hats, Blue Jays hats. We were talking about the color of your hat before we went live on the Patreon. By the way, of course, that was the best part of our Patreon discussion pre-show. I was at the shopping mall with my boss/wife yesterday, and I saw a sweet new Blue Jays hat that I really want to put at the top of my Christmas wish list. It was... Does the Blue Jay mascot have a name?
Ace.
Ace? Okay, that is right. I've heard that before. Never talked to him, so I don't know. It was first of all, a color that can only be described by me as walk-off white. You know, that dirty white that we love to use, right?
Yes, but we do.
It was corduroy, all over corduroy. And the logo on the front of it was Ace making a Kevin Pillar diving catch. Like,
buddy,
how do you get better than that?
Out of Mac. This screams out of Mac. I haven't even seen it. The corduroy itself. I'm a bit of a corduroy hound myself, so
there you go. There you go. All right, if we weeded out the casuals enough yet, can we start talking ball?
I think we can get into what we're going to talk about here. Right. So I did see a really interesting stat on Davis Babe Schneider. And of course, we've talked a little bit about Schneider over the last few episodes and where he fits into the Blue Jays' future. We will dive into that. So a fun little stat on the Babe. We are going to talk. So I got a message from Deb, one of our Patreon members, and she mentioned that she doesn't remember if we did a 3 studs and a dud to wrap up the whole season.
We did not.
And I don't recall us doing that. So what we're going to do, screw doing a dud. Listen, if you need a dud, I think it's pretty safe to put it on the front office and the coaching staff. Lack of communication throughout the organization, it seemed to be the Achilles heel of this 2023 Blue Jays team. So we'll just don that dud title to the whole front office and coaching staff, and we'll just move on from there. But I figured it would be fun for us to look back on 2023. Each of us name our top 3 players of the season, and then we'll predict who we consider to be the top 3 players in 2024 going forward. Juan Soto. I mean, he is without a doubt the best fit for this Toronto Blue Jays team outside of Shohei Ohtani. But that's kind of a ridiculous thing to say, because the truth is a power hitting lefty bat with one of the best eyes in baseball is going to be a great fit on 30 organizations around the league. So we are going to take a look at Juan Soto and what a deal with the Jays might look like. Again, all speculation. We don't know shit, but a little game we play. Well, there's nothing to really talk about. John Gibbons, Gibby, former Blue Jays manager. Of course, he was the guy at the helm of the ship the last time the Blue Jays went to the American League Championship Series in 2015 and 2016. Friend of the show. If you haven't seen the John Gibbons interview with us on the walk-off, check it out, because honestly, it's pretty evergreen. He really gets into kind of like the stories of being a manager and his stories in baseball. And it's just a fun listen, especially during the off season when you're kind of looking for anything to quench that baseball thirst you have. So we'll talk John Gibby. Tyler Glasnow, big stud ace for the Tampa Bay Rays, is on his final year of control with the team. So of course they are looking to move him. We'll touch on that. And then finally, mac and cheese. Does it belong on the Thanksgiving dinner table? And what is Adam's favorite dish?
I love it.
All right, buddy. Should we get into it?
I suppose Davis Schneider.
I guess might as well. Hey, Davis Schneider. Listen, friend of the show. This is a man who, over the last 2.5 years, has shown the walk-off just extreme generosity with his interviews and coming on. I mean, frick, he came down to the live show after playing an afternoon Major League Baseball game and chatted with Blue Jays fans and chatted with the panel. It was just really cool to see. And he had a hell of a start to his baseball career, right? So in 116 ABs, he had 32 hits. He hit 8 dingers, and he finished 2023 with a 1.8 wins above replacement, just under what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. provided with 2.1 wins above replacement. I mean, the fact that Davis Schneider came in when he did and provided the power he did to a lineup that just wasn't hitting dingers, provided a lifeline to a team that seemed to be sinking at the time. I mean, that Boston series, historic.
Yep.
The first 25 games of his career, historic. It's insane what he did. And as if that's not enough, here's a stat that really stood out to me. It's the highest percentage of out-of-zone pitches called strikes in 2023. So these are missed calls by the umpires. When you look at their umpiring stat card, these are calls that should have been a ball. Davis Schneider leads all of Major League Baseball with 9.2% missed calls. So he showed some real discipline at the plate, and 10% of the time it came back and kicked him in the butt because the umpire was screwing up the call. This is one of those stats that you can kind of put into the bad luck category. Is he going to have the highest missed called rate in baseball next year? Very, very doubtful. I mean, he had the highest missed called rate by a full percentage. Nick Madrigal is the next closest with 8.1, Cole Cahoon the next with 7.8, and Robbie Grossman 7.5. So for the most part, Davis Schneider dealt a pretty bad hand in comparison to the rest of Major League Baseball. Should correct itself. I mean, if there's any silver lining to take out of the slump Davis Schneider had to end the season, it is that. It's that he was dealt a bad hand by the umpiring in a lot of cases, and hopefully that kind of corrects itself for next year. I think if Davis Schneider can go out there and hit, honestly, 20 to 30 home runs.
Oh,
when he can, well, listen. I know he's not going to hit 8 home runs every 116 ABs. I mean, that just works out to a 44 home run pace. But I don't think that asking Davis Schneider to hit 20 dingers in 2024 is all that ridiculous.
How many home runs do you want Davis Schneider
20.
to hit? Davis Schneider, 20 home runs. That's a big ask. I don't know if I could follow you there. How many home runs did Matt Chapman finish the season with?
I don't know. 20?
He finished
18?
with 17 home runs.
17.
Oh,
so
how many did he start his season with? So Davis Schneider played in 35 games. How many was Matt Chapman at after 35 games? Processing. All right, we'll talk about something else with this process.
Enhance.
Figure out some math.
Enhance.
Yeah, enhance, exactly.
Yes.
Let's enhance the numbers here. Come on, Baseball Reference. You're killing me. You're making me look stupid in front of my friends.
Listen, I know that Davis Schneider is going to be going into his sophomore season. I'm well aware of the correction that is coming his way when it comes to opposing pitching. I know darn well 35 games is about as small a sample size as you can get. And I also know that I should temper my expectations. I truly don't think expecting 130 games played and 20 dingers out of Davis Schneider is all that crazy. And I understand the pushback here and would love to hear from the grounds crew. Over under 20 home runs for Davis Schneider in 2024. What are you guys taking? And we'll discuss this on the mailbag on Tuesday and kind of take the general consensus of the fan base here. I might be too high on Davis Schneider, and maybe Adam's too low, and maybe it's somewhere in the middle here. Go ahead, Adam. I know you found what you wanted to bring up.
Well, I had to manually count the numbers myself because thank God I have the skill set for that. It was 5 home runs for Matt Chapman in his first 35 games of the season. So through May 9th, Matt Chapman had a batting average of 349, an OPS of 1033, and 5 home runs. Tell me how the rest of his season went. I mean, this is the...
No, it's true. I mean, completely. I mean, it's a comparison you shouldn't even make. They're two different people, but I get your point. I do get what you're saying here, Adam. And I'm not even pushing back against it. Davis Schneider could just disappear. It's not impossible. He had such a hot start, was never a highly ranked prospect, but I think he has it, man. I think we're going to see him stick playing some shortstop, playing some second base. I think we're going to see him in left field. I think we're going to see him being given an opportunity after what he did last year to play some everyday minutes, right? Get out there almost every day and be given an opportunity until he proves he shouldn't be given that opportunity anymore.
Yeah, I'm so torn on on Davis Schneider. I really want to root for the guy. Obviously, love him, friend of the show.
Yeah.
Great dude. But I was watching, this is a stupid YouTube video on like one of the greatest recreational 3-point shooters in basketball history who just like won every one of these things, and then but he's never an NBA player.
Yeah.
And there was a quote in this video. I can't think of I wish I knew this guy's name. But this was someone who averaged like 6 minutes a game for the course of his career, was like the third last person drafted, and averaged like 1.5 points a game in the NBA. But his quote, after obviously getting like trolled online about how much he sucks, was, "I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me." Right? And it's just so true, right? Like, just the guys that are like we can all like shit on Matt Chapman, but he is so good at hitting. And even like when he's bad, and just to say that like Davis Schneider can hit 20 home runs, or like love the hot start that he got off to his career.
Mm-hmm.
But the chances that he is going to be, and again, this is not even anything against Davis Schneider. This goes for every prospect who ever gets called up. The chances of them working out is so infinitesimally small.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just playing those odds. And it's not a personal strike on Davis Schneider at all. It's just like, this isn't a highly drafted prospect with the pedigree of Vlad Jr. that we're talking about, right? Like, this is a guy who grinded and could totally very well be, because there's also loads of those guys who work their butts off and become something. That is a possibility, but I just think more likely. Okay, what was your over-under on Davis Schneider next year?
Over-under 20 home runs.
Okay. I'm taking
the over. I'm going to take the over. I'm going to bet on our boy Davis.
I'm going to take the under, and then I'm going to follow you up with a over-under of my own.
Okay.
And we want everybody to weigh in on this for the upcoming mailbag on Tuesday. Over-under, Davis Schneider, 93 games played next season, which is the number of games Santiago Espinal played last season.
This is an interesting over-under, and I really do like it. I'm taking the over because if I'm going to take the
only
over
way he's getting
20 home runs, exactly, pretty much. So, and I will be honest here, Adam, if Davis Schneider was a New York Met, and I was just watching his historic run without any attachment, right? Completely unbiased, I would be where you are. I'm betting on Davis because I think he's a great guy. I like the baseball brain on the dude, and I think that he really could break as that outside of the box prospect that actually sticks. Again,
I hope you're right.
If I was completely unbiased, like, again, if he wasn't a Toronto Blue Jay, I would be betting against him. I absolutely would, because it's just more likely. You summed it up really well. Prospects don't work out far more often than they work out, even with a hot start.
By the way, Brian Scalabrine is the basketball player with the quote, "I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me." So anybody that was worried about who's the guy that said it, it was Brian Scalabrine. So there you go. I Googled it. We got there.
Drop your comments too. Over under 20 home runs. Over under 93 games. Davis Schneider. Where is everyone in Blue Jays land on the babe? We'll move on from there. We're going to get into our top 3 Blue Jays from 2023 and who we can see being those top 3 Blue Jays in 2024. Do you wish to take the lead here, Adam, or would you like me to start? I'm guessing we probably have one or two that are the same.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, okay, what starts this conversation is the 3 studs and a dud. we are acknowledging that the front office as a whole is going to be the dud of the year. My initial plans for 3 studs and a dud was to give a like year-end awards of like go divvy up points,
tally up who won all the studs and duds.
Who was most often a stud and blah blah blah. So I want to say I have not done that yet. So I'm going to give my 3 dudes here.
Right.
But I'm still going to go back and tally it up for a show in December. And I bet you I'm going to be surprised by who it is. But
I would say the same. I would say the same. And in fact, the route I went, I will say right off the bat, is a bitter, jaded route that I'm trying to make a point on here. So just a heads up.
Interesting.
So I'll start with who I think was the most valuable on this Toronto Blue Jays team. Third in Cy Young voting. I think Kevin Gausman with a 3.16 ERA, 185 innings pitched, led the American League in strikeouts with 237. And I think there's something to be said for a guy who's just a really great ambassador of their team, of their city, of the game of baseball. And that's Kevin Gausman to a T. We watched him throughout some difficult scenarios throwing his way with Anthony Bass and some of the other stuff that's gone on. He always seemed to be the guy saying the right things, reeling in everybody else. And he just seemed like a real calming guy in that dressing room, man. Like when you look at the clubhouse, Kevin Gausman just seemed like a quiet leader on that team. And I think he is a dude who knows where 2023 Blue Jays would have been had Kevin Gausman not performed like he did.
All right. Well, that's a great choice. Tough to argue with Gary Gausman whispering, "Follow me," as the quiet leader. But I'm going with Bo Bichette as my number 1.
Okay.
He is an average defensive shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
He did it. He was not bad at shortstop this year.
He did it.
The numbers were as good as they've ever been. 300 plus batting average, OPS in the 800s. The fielding was just there. Like it was just as good as it needed to be. There are guys with better numbers than him. I think if you look at Brandon Belt, has better offensive numbers than Bo Bichette. But Bo was just, other than the couple weeks that we missed him, and I felt like, boy, did we miss him.
Mm-hmm.
So I never felt like, oh, we don't have Brandon Belt in the lineup today. What are we going to do? Like Brandon Belt injured his thumb. Oh, we're screwed for the next 2 weeks. But when Bo Bichette went down, it felt like,
yeah, that hurt.
Oh, if he's not back, like our season might be over here. So,
I mean, let's face it. The Blue Jays went out and got Paul DeJong because they were panicking about it. Like they were like, that's how big of a hit Bo Bichette not being there. Now, I didn't put Bo Bichette in my top 3, which is, listen, I knew he probably should be in there. And this is a little bit of the bitterness as to why I didn't. So my number 2 is Chris Bassett. He was the big free agent signing in the offseason of 2023, 3 years, $63 million. He was brought in because he had playoff experience and he could eat innings. And my God, did he eat innings. He had a career high 200 innings pitched, and he pitched it beautifully to a 3.6 ERA. Truly a savior for this Blue Jays starting rotation at times when, let's say, whenever a guy like Gausman, right, because Bassett pitched right after him most of the time. And whenever Gary Gausman had a rare, what would you call it? A rare because he never really had any, like he had what, 2 complete blowing up starts. Like he never really had a bad start. So I hate saying like after a bad start, but just after taking a loss, after Gary Gosman went out there and still took the L, Bassett really did show up start after start. And I don't think the amount of innings he pitched gets enough credit. I can't even imagine where this team would have been without him, especially after watching Alek Manoah faceplant like he did. It was so imperative that someone pick up the slack for Alek Manoah, and Chris Bassett was that guy, the hound, day in and day out, got in there, pitched big innings, and he did it very, very well. So he was my number 2 guy.
I like it. My number 2. I mean, you already talked about it. Gary Gosman.
Yeah.
What else is there to say? Absolute stud for this team. So
you knew there'd be some crossovers here. So my third and final top performer for 2023, and this is where the bitterness comes in a little bit, because the biggest Achilles heel of this 2023 Blue Jays team is that they would not score runs. It was constantly all on pitching, and so if it's going to constantly be all on pitching, then I'm going to give all of my awards to pitching. The third best Blue Jay in 2023, in my opinion, was Jose Barrios, who had one of the biggest bounce backs you could have possibly hoped for out of a guy of his ilk. He pitched to a 5.23 ERA in 2022, a career worst outside of his rookie season, by the way. And this is after the Blue Jays front office went and gave him a massive extension, 7 years, $131 million. And there was a little bit of panic, I think, amongst the front office. Now, I wouldn't say it was full on losing their mind, but let's face it, that's a lot of money to give to a guy, including the 2 top prospects they gave in Simeon Woods Richardson and Austin Martin, who was 1 and 3 when they moved them at the time at the deadline in 2021. Just a lot to pay, not just money wise with the extension, but just with the prospect capital that could have been spent elsewhere. So there was a lot on the line. And you know who showed up? Jose Barrios showed up big time. He had career highs in numbers. He went out there and he pitched again, 189.2 innings. Just a bulk dude in a time where Alek Manoah just completely unraveled. They needed these guys to pick up those innings, and that's exactly what Jose Barrios did. So he gets my number 3.
Great choice. Great choice.
Again, and I know Bo Bichette should have been in there, everybody. Like, I'm aware that this is a bitter take.
I follow the logic of it's all on the pitching, so all the pitchers get it. Following with that, I'm going to say defense first was the strategy and where we place the value. So I got to give it to one of our defensive studs, Whit Merrifield. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm totally kidding. Yeah. This is going to be a divisive take. Dalton Varsho.
Okay, interesting.
I think the numbers of Dalton Varsho frustrated this team more than it should have because of how bad the offense was.
Mm-hmm.
He still got 20 home runs for us.
Yeah.
Like the batting average, sure, it was disappointing. But like, if you get 20 home runs out of one of the best defenders in baseball, like if Vladdy's hitting 40 again, I don't think
we're not even talking.
I don't think we're complaining about the offense we got from Dalton Varsho. If he's our number 7 hitter hitting 220 and putting up 20 to 25 home runs and platinum glove defense in the outfield.
And again, Adam, the dud,
give me that.
The dud went to the front office and to the coaching staff, right? It's not Dalton Varsho's fault that they were hitting him 3rd in this lineup for 6 weeks.
Right.
Like,
I totally agree. Totally agree. So Dalton Varsho, look, is not as good as Gabriel Moreno might turn out to be. I secede that possibility. But he's going to be our full-time center fielder next year. Probably 150 games in center field for Dalton Varsho next year. I'm already willing to engrave the Gold Glove with his name on it. Like, he is as good as it gets defensively. And there were, I mean, okay, the number of times that I did have like almost no confidence that he was going to get a hit when he was coming to the plate was high. But I will say, I was never once worried about a mental error coming from Dalton Varsho. I was never worried about him making a base running mistake or
very true
throwing the ball to the wrong base, and just the stability of him is, yeah, if he gives me a 220 batting average with 20 to 25 home runs for the next 4 years, I am okay with that. And
yeah, tough not to agree with you there, man. And I like that outside the box pick, because it was an outside the box pick there. Okay,
good. He's good. He's good.
Let's look.
Great ball player, Dalton Varsho.
He is. He is.
I think the home runs are higher next year than they are this year. He had 27 his final season with Arizona. No reason for me to believe he can't be a 30 home run guy at some point with the Blue Jays. He's just coming into his prime now.
Especially if the Jays management actually goes out there and gets a freaking cleanup hitter. Like, the fact there wasn't a power bat in the middle of this lineup all year long, like, it still baffles me, dude. Like, we're sitting here in November 2023, and I'm just like, how did they go the whole season without a power bat?
Okay, while we're on the topic of power bat, and this is one thing that ties into the Bo Bichette trade to the Cubs rumors that we heard earlier this week. I hopped on Chicago Cubs fan live stream podcast thing, and I was surprised how like lukewarm they were on these trade rumors to get Bo Bichette. But their reason behind like why they weren't super thrilled about it was because it doesn't really solve the fact that they also need a power bat. You know, like Bo Bichette lengthens the lineup, which is nice, but they are more worried about like getting a guy that can mash in the, you know, towards the top end of their lineup. And that's not Bo Bichette. And I think that's a good point, is that I don't know. It's just, it was interesting to see someone not be super excited. I mean, they were obviously the thoughts of getting Bo Bichette is enticing. But that it isn't the like obvious, no pun intended, home run trade that would totally excite the fan base. Like it's, I don't know. It's just a thought. It was something. It was an observation. I'm just sharing that.
Well, listen, when you have an area of need and you're addressing it in an outside the box way, where you're moving a guy from shortstop to third base and you're hoping that he does provide a little more power than he's ever shown before. I mean, yeah, there's risk to that. Let's move on to 2024 and who we view on this Blue Jays roster currently, this current roster, that we can see having a big impact. So we're each picking 3 guys to have big impacts in 2024. I will start with Danny Jansen. I think he stays healthy and establishes himself as one of the league's top offensive catchers. Last year, he had a career high in home runs with 17, a career high in RBIs with 53. Danny's problem has not been the power that he has shown, especially since going into his I pull the ball. That's who I am. I don't care. I'm going to just pull the ball for power. That's kind of been his mentality, because he did go through this phase in 2021 where he really was trying to spray the ball all over the field. And instead of trying to expand his, expand where he's hitting the ball, he decided to just play to his strength and just be a pull hitter. And it's worked really, really well for him since he has done that. Danny's problem has been staying on the field and staying healthy. In 2021, he played 70 games. In 2022, he played 72 games. In 2023, he played 86. So last year, he played 86 games. And he's only played more than half the season twice in his entire career. Last last year, which was the second most games he's ever played in Major League Baseball. And he also played 107 back in 2019. So he has been injury prone. Now, that said, the injuries that he has had, they haven't really included anything that provides structural damage. Like he's not dealing with an ongoing shoulder problem. He's not dealing with bad knees. He's had bad luck. Now, yes, those count the same. But maybe this is the year where the baseball gods swing the other way on him. So I'm going to predict that he has a healthy season. I think Danny Jansen is in the lineup 130 games this year, breaking his major league career record for games played. I think he hits 25 to 30 dingers, and I think he forces this team to DH him more than they had anticipated they would by the end of the year.
I love it. All I could think was next time we do something like this, we should do it draft style where we can't have overlap.
Right. Did you have a Danny Jansen in your list too?
Yeah, I did. And I had Gary Gossman in my first list. And it just,
yeah,
when you say all the fun talking points, it's boring for me to just exactly repeat you. So, and you're probably going to have my next guy, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
What?
You do not have, you don't think a Vlad Jr. could have a big season next year that would be helpful to this team?
No, I do. Right. I just saw three other guys I thought would be big.
Well, I'm glad I'm taking this one because I think this one is maybe the most obvious.
And I figured you'd take Vladdy. Honestly, when I was like, you'll take Vladdy. So
that's fair. Okay. Well, Vladdy, there you go. 26 home runs from the kid, a 264 batting average, OPS under 800. It might be the worst season of his career. I'm hopeful. I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said 1,000 times by 1,000 people in 1,000 places, but I guess it's either he has a bounce back season in a positive way, or he's a bust.
Yeah. It's almost coming to that point. And bust is probably the wrong word. He's just a slightly above average player instead of the generational talent that everyone had touted him as.
Okay. I guess define bust so however you want. Yes. For me, for Vladdy to be a Dalton Varsho level offensive talent would be a bust.
Yeah. Yes, obviously.
Right. Yeah, I think he's just. I can't see it being as bad as it was this year. If it is, okay. If he's as bad as he was last year, I just think that is a sign that he can't hit major league pitching. Like, I think he came up, was a superstar. I think pitchers figured him out, and now he needs to make the adjustment back. Right, whatever he's struggling with in his swing or any of it, he needs to make those adjustments. He needs to learn how to hit the pitches he hasn't been able to hit because pitchers have figured it out, what he can't hit, how to avoid the bat of Vlad Jr., whatever it is. And he either can make that adjustment and he will, or he doesn't because he can't. But I don't think it's going to be a lack of work ethic or effort on his part. So I think he's got 300 million reasons
play here
to figure it out. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like this is the difference between a Juan Soto potential contract and what Cody Bellinger was looking at before his bounce back season. So yeah, I think he is going to be maybe the most motivated player to quote unquote work on it this offseason. And if it's still bad next year, that is a red flag that I can't ignore. So
couldn't agree more with you. And sure would be huge if your prediction is correct and Vladdy doesn't even return to 2021. I would take Vladdy from 2022 happily. Give me 32 home runs and
Sure.
105 RBIs. I'm fine with that. I mean, we still need a power bat in the middle of this lineup, but if Vladdy can rebound a little bit, that's massive. So, second player I have for a big 2024, Bo Bichette. And I could have easily put him as a top Blue Jay in 2023. He had an incredible year, 4.9 wins above replacement, a 306 batting average. He had 175 hits, and for the first time in his career, missed some real time. He played 159 games in both 2022 and 2021. He played 135 last year, which is the least he's played since 2019.
Look, the kid's injury prone. There's no way around it.
Yeah. I mean, the guy, he plays every game. And I think in 2024, we're going to see him rebound to playing right around 160 games. I also think that the Jays front office is going to make sure that there's an actual cleanup hitter this year. I mean, the experiment failed in 2023. And if they don't correct it, there's a very good argument that Ross Atkins should have already been fired, but my God, if he doesn't correct the fact there isn't a power hitter in the middle of this lineup for 2024, get him the F out of this organization. So I do think that is going to be the case in 2024. I think that there's going to be more protection for Bo Bichette in that 2-hole, which I do think is going to springboard him to hit actually 30 home runs for the first time in his major league career. I don't think he's going to be a 40 home run hitter or anything, but I think Bo is going to hit 30 in 2024. And I think he's going to be a big cog in the middle of this lineup, as he has to be.
I like it, sir. This one is... Maybe I misread this, or maybe we've just organically shifted what this top 3 has become. But is this bounce back of 2024? Or is this most improved? Or is this just who is the best? Like, because can I pick Kevin Gausman? Can I pick Gary Gausman for this list? Yeah. And just once again be an absolute stud for this team?
Yeah.
Okay, Gary Gausman. There you go. Pencil it in.
I just chose Bo Bichette.
I know, but you didn't have him in your top 3, so I figured if you were kind of down on Bichette, maybe you thought, well, he's going to be better.
I really do think Bichette is a top 3 from 2023. And again, I cannot stress enough how bitter I am about the offense's production, and that's why I went all pitchers.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, I'm gonna give it to Gary Gausman. Then he's my number 2 on both lists. That's I don't know if he's going to be any better, if he even could be, but another top 5 in Cy Young votes kind of a season from him, and that's
my final pick for 2024 as a guy who's really going to be a reason why this team either makes or breaks it is George Springer. So George Springer's 34 years old. Despite his age, he still has above average sprint speed. His bat is slowed down a little bit, but he still keeps up with all the fastballs in the league for the most part. I believe this will be the season George Springer reinvents himself as a power first bat. We watched Joey Votto do this at age 34. We watched Nelson Cruz do this at age 34, and it just makes sense for George to maybe sell out a little bit more on the pitches he's looking for. Just take it that he's going to strike out a little more than he has throughout the rest of his career. And I think this is something he just has to come to terms with. He's going to strike out a little more, and in return, hopefully he can get back to that 35 to 40 home run range that he was at before he became a Blue Jay. He struggled with health in his first season with the Jays, was on and off the field in his second season. Last year, he was healthy, and it didn't translate to the bat they were hoping it would be. One of the biggest reasons why they went out and got Dalton Varsho, one of the biggest reasons they went out and got Kevin Kiermaier, was an attempt to keep George Springer out of center field and crossing their fingers that would in turn translate to more production out of his bat, and it didn't. This is year 4 of George Springer's 6-year contract with the Blue Jays, and they really need to start getting some return on investment out of this guy. And I think that him getting in the cage and reinventing his swing a little bit, becoming more power-centric, would be really good for this Blue Jays team. Maybe even get to the point where he is that cleanup hitter they need. I mean, I'm not saying don't go out and get a power bat. They have to do that. But, maybe George Springer hits 5th this year instead of 1st, and they figure out something for the leadoff spot. I think it's time George kind of just as a player re-envisions what he's doing on the organization. And the dream is power is that reimagined George Springer.
I love it. I love it. I love the resurgence. I love the Nelson Cruz, Joey Votto comparisons.
Like, George can hit. We all know Springer has the power. Like, he just, again, this is a philosophical change across the organization. His contact rate increased so much last year, man. It didn't work. Scrap whatever that frickin' plan was, and I hate strikeouts, but I would far rather see George Springer strike out a bunch and hit 35 dingers than George Springer not strike out a bunch and just be what he was in 2023.
Yeah, I'm with you. Close your eyes and swing hard just in case you hit it, right?
Yeah.
That's a great choice. That was your number 3. My number 3, I had a couple contenders here. I really want to go off the mark here and say Cavan Biggio for almost the same reason that you like George Springer. We just saw it in the second half with Cavan, where all of a sudden there seemed to be power in his bat that I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like he was kind of taking that new approach of like, I'm going to just fucking swing hard just in case.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Across the board, power was down for this team. I guess I'm shocked because back in March, we were talking about this team having how many
30 home run hitters?
How many 30 home run hitters? 5, 6, maybe 7 guys that could hit 30, and not one did. Oh, did we ever jinx it?
Not one even got close. Like, Vladdy had what, 26? Like, 26 it was just
closest.
Like,
anyway, I think Danny had a 30 home run pace. If you extrapolate it to 162, he's never going to play 162 games. No catchers do. And Brandon Belt, I think, was on a 29 home run pace if you gave him 162. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Cavan Biggio is 150 games at third base for the Blue Jays next year.
Wow.
And is a not quite nominee for Gold Glove at the position.
Ooh, so he puts up such good defensive numbers that he doesn't get the vote, but people are mentioning him as
I'm mentioning him.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention. Look, played third base, 2 years ago before we had Matt Chapman? Not full time, but was I think that was his primary spot when he was in the lineup, was third base. And it just looked like he was not cut out for third base, did not have the arm strength. And I always felt sympathetic for Cavan. He was always a gadget player that always did what we asked of him to his own personal detriment to help the team out. But when he filled in at third base this season, it didn't feel like a downgrade for Matt Chapman defensively.
It really didn't, which was shocking.
So for that reason, I guess I've turned this top 3 list into a bounce back
redemption
list. Like some sort of a best case scenario. But man, I think part of me saying this too because I don't really want Matt Chapman back.
Yeah, buddy. Me too. I mean, it's so funny because we talked about Matt Chapman and what it would look like for the Jays to bring him back. And the amount of times I have in my Twitter mentions, just someone's like, this guy's ideal scenario is Matt Chapman for $25 million in 1 year. It's like, I mean, yeah, I would actually be just fine with that. Ideal, depending on what you mean by the term ideal, like realistically, that is a good scenario. That's something that I can actually see the Blue Jays doing. I still think Matt Chapman is going to get $140 million. And, I still think he's going to be extremely overpaid to wherever he goes. And I just hope it's not the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a big deal.
1 year at a beefy price, I'll take that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I guess in my dream scenario where Cavan Biggio is our majority third baseman and filling in admirably, he also has the bat protection of Juan Soto in the lineup. So, it is...
Yes.
The thing is...
Great transition, by the way.
You can't have a literal all-star team for all 9 positions.
No.
Right? You do need to make some sacrifices. You do need to have value guys who are overachieving. And I think you've hung your hat, planted your flag on Davis Schneider being the value guy.
Yeah.
For this team next year. And that's possible.
It on Cavan.
I'm putting it on Cavan. Yeah, if we can get like reliable defense, above average defense out of him at third base, and I think I've seen enough at him. Again, offensively, he's a question mark. Defensively, I'm confident with him at third. And offensively, I've such a roller coaster ride with him because I was a believer in him, and then I got off the bandwagon, and then there was definitely times last season where I was like, Cavan, you figured out baseball. Good job, buddy. So could Cavan Biggio hit 25 home runs from third base and just be a guy that is like a top 15 third baseman in baseball? That's not...
Absolutely not. I do not see there any way that he hits 25 home runs. I'll give you 15 to 20. But
okay, here's our final over/under for mailbag. Who has more home runs in 2024 for the Blue Jays? Davis Schneider or Cavan Biggio?
Love that.
That's a good one. Okay, let's talk Juan Soto.
Okay, so Juan Soto makes so much sense for every team in baseball. I mean,
except the Padres.
Except for the Padres. Except for San Diego. Listen, he's an elite talent. I'm not going to sit and act like this is unique to the Blue Jays to have a guy like Juan Soto be such a prime target, but he really is the best fit for this Jays team outside of Shohei Ohtani. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the 2024 season. He's probably going to get $400 million on the open market. Remember, he did turn down $365 million over 12 years as an extension from the Nationals before they moved him to the Padres. The guy believes in himself, and I don't think there's any way he doesn't test free agency after turning down that kind of money. Lefty power bat, one of the best eyes in baseball. People have called him the Ted Williams of today, time and time again, and that is just about the highest praise you can give a dude. Again, of course that helps anyone, but damn, that would be nice to see in the middle of this Blue Jays lineup. So the real question here is, for 1 year of Juan Soto, can he become a Blue Jay without trading Ricky Tiedemann? That really is, in my opinion, the caveat that would be the deal breaker here. I don't think this front office is prepared to give up Ricky, a left-handed elite prospect that is probably going to make his major league debut sooner than later. I'm not saying he's going to start spring training with this, or come out of spring training as a member of this Blue Jays team for a few reasons. There is going to be some service time manipulation done here. Even if they do feel he's ready, it just makes sense to wait that first 4 weeks because you get a full extra year of service time. So if we do see Ricky, it's probably not till May. I just don't think there's any way that this front office would be into moving him. So how do you get Juan Soto out of San Diego? San Diego needs to shed salary. They also need a pitcher who can log innings, is going to be cheap, is going to be under control for a while, and has a high ceiling. Listen, I know Alek Manoah had one of the most historic face plants in Blue Jays history. I mean, this dude went from third in Cy Young voting in 2022 to a guy who didn't even finish the year on the team. But there's a lot of reasons why Alek Manoah regressed. And I think betting on him to find some happy medium between the two is a pretty good, pretty safe bet. So Alek Manoah is probably a dude who would need to be involved in this trade. You probably need another pitching prospect with solid upside, a Chad Dallas type, friend of the show, Chad Dallas, Cheddar, 22 years old, had an incredible season at Double A, winning the Toronto Blue Jays Minor League Pitcher of the Year award. He's going to probably start the season in AAA. He's going to be a nice depth piece. And again, he's young, 22 years old, a lot of upside on Chad Dallas. Aroldis Martinez or Addison Barger, one of the two probably need to be included. A guy who is close to Major League ready, can play some of the infield positions that the Padres are going to need. My guess is that they're going to be pushing for Aroldis to be the guy, and the Blue Jays are going to be pushing for it to be Barger. And then you probably see a guy like Santiago Espinal or even a Cavan Biggio included in that as well, a big leaguer who can provide cost efficiency for a team that needs cost efficiency. The risk here is obvious, right? 1 year. You get 1 year with Juan Soto. Doesn't mean you can't sign him at the end of that, but there's no way he doesn't go to free agency.
Yeah.
Damn, Juan Soto in the middle of this lineup would look sexy. Like, I know it's a lot to give up for 1 year, but
yeah, that's a big trade. It's a steep price tag. I think I'm getting on the Bo Bichette trade wagon again here. This isn't me saying I want to trade Bo Bichette. Mm-hmm. But we talked on Mailbag about a 3-team trade. Right? How that usually works. Padres, I don't think, would want Bo Bichette. Because they're just painting themselves into the same financial pickle.
Yeah.
Right? But okay, we talk about giving up Aroldis Martinez or Ricky Tiedemann, Alek Manoah, like just absolutely emptying the cupboards for 1 season of Juan Soto. I think I would rather give up fewer. Okay. If we were to go with Alek Manoah, if we were to make the evaluation that our team is better off with Juan Soto, we can't. There's no way we can have Juan Soto, Vlad Jr., and Bo Bichette all making 9 figures on this team. Like we don't have it in the budget to give all 3 of those guys deals, and I don't want to rent Juan Soto for 1 season. Is my thing. So I think if we were to pivot away from Bo or Vlad, take your choice, who you've got more faith in to have a lengthy,
long, prosperous career,
potential Hall of Fame career. You bet on that guy. You give that guy a big deal. and then you ship the other guy for prospects that then help replenish the cupboard or get prospects that then we could go after a Juan Soto for, right? Like, it's a big shift in the build of this team. But then at least I feel like we could do, because I've been telling myself this for 7 years now, that we could afford 2 mega deal contracts for Bo and Vlad. So if you replace, I'm just going to say Vlad because Bo has been the trade discussion. So let's just say we're going to get rid of Vlad, although it would be a sell low kind of a year. But yeah, I could see a situation where we trade away Vlad, we get 3 or 4 top prospects in return. Ricky Tiedemann or Elvis Martinez level prospects in return for Vlad. And then that gives us the flexibility to trade away Ricky Tiedemann and Elvis Martinez as part of a package for Juan Soto. And then the team looks like whatever it is with Bo Bichette and Juan Soto. And then maybe we don't have Ricky Tiedemann, but maybe we got whoever the Ricky Tiedemann is on the Cincinnati Reds.
Right. No, it's going to be interesting to see how this front office deals with this offseason, because I think there is the possibility of some major changes. There's also the possibility that this is not a lot of changes, but we'll see how things play. I know that Juan Soto is one of the elite players in baseball. He might be probably the most elite of anyone on this Jays team, which would mean a shift in the way the front office thinks and who they feel should be signed. The thing with Juan Soto is I believe the Blue Jays probably make a push for him in free agency no matter what happens in 2024. I mean, he is a dude who's going to be 25 years old, and 5-tool Hall of Fame-like players don't come along very often. We've talked about this with Shohei and the unicorn budget, and I think Juan Soto, although not quite in that same category, is a guy that you wouldn't be doing your due diligence as a front office if you're not making a pitch.
I'm with you. Would you rather, just as far as offseason moves go, would you rather Ross Atkins jumps in early and overpays to get somebody? I mean, in terms of like trades, like we had to, whatever, or misses out? Like, would you rather a scenario where he goes in and he gets a Juan Soto or whoever, right? And then 2 months from now, we're going like, holy shit, we gave up all that for this, and then turns out the market for him was way less, and we shouldn't have had to give up that. Like, do you see what I'm saying with this? Would you rather we overspend this offseason or underspend and miss out and stand pat?
I think I'd rather them overspend in a trade, because if Toronto Blue Jays fans have proven anything, it's that they deal with a lopsided trade really well. They're just very, very classily. You'll never see anyone lose their mind over it and completely be ready to burn down the entire franchise. So yeah, overpay, you know. Honestly, I don't think I could handle another Dalton Varsho type scenario just with the comments section. So I'm picking missing out, I guess, if these are our two options.
Fair enough.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's move on. We've only got a couple more to deal with here. I know we were going to talk Tyler Glass now and the fact that maybe he is on the move from the Rays, but we're going to push that to MLB Mondays here just because we're short on time. Did want to quickly bring up John Gibbons back in Major League Baseball. Of course, he was drafted and came up with the Mets. He caught Dwight Gooden back in the day, the G-men, they called them. And so he's returning to where his Major League career started, which is the New York Mets. course, he was the manager at the helm of the Toronto Blue Jays during their ALCS runs in 2015 and 2016. Friend of the show, really good dude, and just a wonderful baseball storyteller. One of the best out there. Love the Gibby show. But on the upside, with him returning to the Mets, that's one less podcast on the charts that is above us, right, buddy?
One less Blue Jays podcast. Maybe he'll keep podcasting just from Metsland.
That would actually be so cool if he continued to podcast and just like became the best Mets podcast in baseball.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So a big congrats to John Gibbons. Let's end on American Thanksgiving. So a tip of the hat and a happy American Thanksgiving weekend to all of our American viewers. I saw a post about, does mac and cheese belong on the Thanksgiving dinner table? Listen, I know in Canada, it's not really a staple dish in the Thanksgiving world. I'm a huge mac and cheese guy. I always have room for mac and cheese. And if we got to start eliminating things on the Thanksgiving dinner table, you know, maybe the rolls, we can do without the rolls. Put them in the kitchen. Go get your roll from the kitchen. There needs to be a spot for the mac and cheese.
All right. So literal on the table. All right. I see the angle you're taking here. Mac and cheese. Are we talking like elbow macaroni with a cheese sauce mixed in, or are we talking craft dinner?
Oh, we're talking like homemade mac and cheese.
Okay.
Getting it in there, getting it done.
Okay. All right. I'll cut you some slack there. Then I was gonna give you a little shit for having craft dinner at your Thanksgiving. Although I would be lying if I said I didn't have craft dinner at a Christmas meal or two of mine in my life. I am new to the world of sweet potatoes with marshmallows.
Oh,
you ever had this?
Yes, I have.
Last Thanksgiving, we had a friendsgiving, right? We had friends over because all of our family's away from here. And it's never been a recipe that's ever been brought out in my lifetime. And then I discovered it for the first time last Thanksgiving, and I was blown away by how good it was. So
it is a tasty treat.
It is an odd treat.
It is odd, but it works well.
It works well. It's good. Yeah. It's good. This Thanksgiving I got to have dark turkey meat for the first time ever. Not ever, but I prefer the white meat, and there was none left by the time I got to the turkey tray. So we didn't get a big enough turkey, and all I could have was dark meat. So I felt like
it wasn't so bad.
It was all right. It was.
You're like, I would have preferred white meat.
For sure, I would have preferred white meat. Anybody who's like, oh, dark meat's better, it's juicier and better flavor, like, you're crazy. Yeah. I'm eating liver over here. This is disgusting.
Yeah, it's like my grandma. She's like, oh, the turkey neck's the best part of the turkey. I'm like, Grandma, get up.
Okay, Grandma. Yeah,
stop it. Stop.
Go back to your home.
All right. We're going to wrap it up there. Happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans watching. Take care of yourselves. Thank you to the grounds crew. Feel free to drop that comment there. Over under Davis Schneider, Cavan Biggio. Who's going to have the most home runs?
A lot of them.
All the best, everybody. We'll see you Tuesday for Mailbag. Quick reminder, too, we are going to be talking with Ben Nicholson-Smith of Sportsnet on Tuesday, so that should be out hopefully on Wednesday. We'll probably release the Alan Rodon interview we did. He's one of the top Blue Jays prospects in their system and a very likely guy to maybe even make the team out of spring training. So we're going to release that probably Monday, sometime next week anyways. All the best. Take care of yourselves. Cheers.